What's up, my brothers? About a month ago, I did a video titled 10 Brutal Lies That Women Believe in 2024. If you haven't seen that video, it got about 250,000 views in the last month. I'll put a card up in the top right. So I want to do a video for the guys, for the boys, and give you a little bit of insight on 10 very, very common lies that are most likely in your blind spots for a lot of you that you should not be believing at this time in history. The first one is just be yourself. I think that this is probably one of the biggest lies that guys subscribe to, especially the softer, weaker, less awakened guys in this day and age, where they've been told through a function of usually single parent households, sometimes culture, marketing, religion. It doesn't matter what it is, but you're essentially enough. Like, you're just fine the way that you are. You don't need to be more. Just be yourself. One of the things that a guy will often think to himself is, well, how do I get a gal? Like, where do I get the girls from? How do I find an attractive woman that I can be in a relationship with? I want a girlfriend, or maybe I want a wife. And often the conversation piece that they get from those that really don't care that much about them is, well, just be yourself. You know, the right gal will come along as long as you're just being yourself. She'll see you for what you are. She'll see your virtues, your traits, your kind heart, you know, your willingness to give and love. And these guys will think, well, that's just enough. You know, as long as I'm just being myself, then women will start, and I'm going to use throwing themselves at me. That's not what they're going to do. But they think that women will just sort of come their way. And it never goes that way, ever. In fact, it usually goes completely the other way. They become invisible. They are not noticed. They're very stuck in the shadows in life. It doesn't work for you guys. You just can't sail through life, coast through life, I should say. Those that sail are doing something actively to move in a direction. Coast through life. Sort of go with the flow. Only dead fish go downstream. You know what I'm saying? Number two, and this one blows me away, and is that marriage is still a good idea for men. The amount of guys that still have a priority on their agenda in life to find a wife and get married as a goal, as an accomplishment, as essentially the peak of Maslow's hierarchy of all your needs that you'll ever need, subscribing to just get a wife, not a good idea. I'm going to explain why. There's a great chapter in my book, The Unplugged Alpha, which you can get, pinned below. Some of you have read it, of course, which talks about why smart men are no longer marrying. I'm not saying don't get involved with women. I'm not saying don't invite a woman into your life. I'm not saying don't have children. What I'm saying is marriage is not a good idea for men anymore. There was a time in history, for a long time in history, in fact, there's an excellent book on this called The History of Marriage. Stephanie Kuntz is the author, where it's discussed that the entire point of marriage throughout the entirety of modern history was the acquisition of in-laws. That's really what it boiled down to. You didn't have everything available in your network, so you needed law enforcement, you need schooling, you need medical care. People would obviously blend families, marry, acquire in-laws, and they would be able to serve, protect, and raise children together. And that's what the function of marriage initially was. Now today, they try to make it all about romantic love. Just love her. Just love her more. Learn her love language. If she's not interested in you or if she's not intimate with you, why don't you know her love language? You see that pop up all the time in these free Facebook groups and these discussion boards, and it's like, these guys have no idea what they're talking about at all. And they're dispensing horrible advice. Most guys are not equipped to deal with marriage. They're not equipped to deal with modern women in today's world. And they sign up for a deal which is very, very low risk and high reward for women if they're going to subscribe to their hypergamous nature and marry up to the best value guy that they can get, and very, very high risk and low reward for men. You ask the 50% of men that go through the divorce grinder in the West, especially when they have children, what happens to most of them, and the vast majority of them lose a significant chunk of their wealth. They're often alienated from their children, and they watch their wealth flow from them through the family court system to the wife, while she makes, or ex-wife I should say, while she makes his life more difficult than it was during the marriage. Guys, if you're going to do something like live in a way that looks like marriage to the state, you need to be wise about the way that you do it. I have an entire course in my School of Unplugging, which is pinned below, which talks about the details within that, how to minimize the risk and how to do it properly so that you don't run into significant problems. And if problems do arise, you find a very safe way of getting through the untying of the knot process and the problems with family law. You have to be very, very, guys, marriage is a slaughterhouse. It is a big dark room with lots of sharp objects in it that most men walk through blindfolded. And they don't believe me leading up to it, But after the fact, anybody that's been through the divorce grind will be nodding their head right now in the comments, typing, going, yep, here's my story. Go look forward to any of the videos where I talk about divorce. Be very, very careful. Be relationship minded if you want. Be oriented in the sense where you want to have children and pass on your name and DNA, but be wise about it. And there's very, very important steps that you have to take, which again, I talk about in those modules in my courses in the School of Unplugging. You can go check that out if that's of interest to you and learn more there. The third lie, which I hear a lot going out to guys, is just be a passport bro. Just grab a passport, move to another country, and all your problems will be solved. And that's really not true. The way the narrative usually goes is you live in the West is in the decline, the fabric of society is crumbling, women in the West are no good, they're no longer feminine, they're too feminist, blah, blah, blah. And they'll say, go get a passport and go to Asia, go to Latin America, Colombia, go to Eastern Europe, one of these places. And sure, the women are more feminine, they're way less tattooed, they've generally got culinary skills, they leave their hair long, they do their makeup all the time, but they're still women. And women are hypergamous around the world. What women want is the best deal that they can possibly get. It's not like they're going to be more agreeable in Colombia or more agreeable in the Philippines or Thailand. They're still women. They're still going to be women. They're still going to be difficult. They're still going to issue tests and challenges for you to pass. You see these all the time in these TV shows where they'll take this guy that lives in his mom's basement. He's like your typical 40-year-old virgin. He has a collection of all his toys and anime things up on shelves. He's got his video game and console with a big screen and headphones and like a lounge chair, and he's grossly overweight, and he can't find a girl in the West, but he's got 4 weeks off from his postal job that he's been at for 20 years, and he goes to Asia and brings a wife back, and the whole thing collapses in a huge explosion of nonsense that makes for a great TV. And that's essentially the way that it goes. And what I'm saying, guys, is don't subscribe to the notion of buying some sleazy pickup artist course that says just get a passport and follow these pickup tips and go to these countries and say these things and do this, that, and the other thing. If you suck with women in the West, you're going to suck with women in the East and Latin America or wherever else that is that you're going to go. You need to take a good, hard look at the guy in the mirror and hold that dude accountable if you're going to go and leave the country that you're in and move somewhere else. Sure, the cost of living will be lower. Sure, the women might be more attractive, but you still need to understand the fundamental and the basics of attraction, women, what drives them, and do better. It's a reality of the world that we live in, and I think these guys that subscribe to passport bro lifestyle for the vast majority of the time will learn the grass is not greener on the other side of the fence. It's greener where you water and fertilize it, where you take care of it. Understand? All right, let's go to number 4, which is the good girl. A lot of guys will believe this notion that there's a good girl out there. There's good girls out there. And you know what? There's some bad girls. There's some pretty terrific ones too. And there's some better girls. But what I'm going to tell you is that there are really no good girls. Especially as you get older and you get into your 30s and 40s and 50s and stuff like that. What you're going to learn is that a lot of women, there's either bad girls or there's, I'm going to do this in quotations, good girls that haven't been caught yet because of bad choices that they've made. I sometimes say on social media, I'll make like a salacious post or say something along the lines that women would do a lot better today if they ran decisions through the filter of, would this disappoint my father? And, the guys that read that, they get it, they understand it, they laugh at it. But the vast majority of them, they kind of cock their head sideways like a dog that sort of like doesn't understand what you're saying when you talk to them. It's really, really funny to observe a lot of these comments and behaviors. But guys, you have to understand that women are just women. There's no perfect angels out there. Women are not sugar and spice and all things nice. Women all have the capability to destroy men in family law in the West. Women all have the capability to break your heart and step out on you and betray you. And no amount of being nice to them or being kind to them or a shoulder to cry on or any of those things is going to make any of that go away or reduce the risk, I should say, completely. Do you understand? There's just women. There's no good girls or bad girls. There's just women. There's some better than others. You have to understand it. But I think this trope, this idea that is being passed around out there that go look for a good girl, go to a library, go to a certain church or a certain event, and you'll find the good ones there. I'm telling you, the same gal in the library that might look cute and innocent is the same gal that when she was 22 years old, a couple of Italian guys in a foam cannon party in Ibiza, she was drunk enough, they were cute enough, and whatever never led to one thing after that was the result of the problems that, or the baggage that she might be carrying around. So just be very, very careful with the good girl idea that there's all these good girls out there. The fifth one, which grinds my gears to no end, is that you are a victim. They love telling guys today that you are a victim. They convince a lot of dudes out there that you are victims and that you deserve more and that people owe you something. I'm going to tell you something right now. The victim mindset is a loser's mindset. If you go around in life with, oh, woe me, the reason why I'm not successful is because of insert whoever caused the trauma, the grief, the problem, the judgment of you, the whatever it happened to be that hurts your little fifis, it's not true. They want you to be a victim. They want you to believe that there is an oppressor, because if you are a victim, then there has to be an oppressor. And guess who the oppressor ends up being? The boogeyman. Ends up being something along the lines where they convince a big chunk of the population, oh no, we got to tax the rich. They're not paying their fair share. That's one of the common ones that I see a lot of the times, where people say, oh, the rich aren't paying enough, we have to tax them. And these moronic politicians and bureaucrats that convince people that they're victims and that they are entitled to more and that there's people that are out there taking advantage of the world and themselves. My friends, if you are not getting what you want out of life, it is because you hold bad beliefs which you are using to make choices and decisions that are generating the terrible results that you are living with. Again, I'm going to go back to the man in the mirror. You need to take a good hard look at him and hold that guy accountable for the crap results that you've got in life. You are not a victim. Everything that came your way that you did not like, for the vast majority of you out there, with some small exceptions, happened because you made some bad choices. Happened because you didn't do the right thing. You didn't do the work. All right, number 6, let's talk about being in shape and that it doesn't matter. They'll tell a lot of people out there, oh, people should just accept you for who you are. It doesn't matter what size you are. You're beautiful at any size, blah, blah, blah. That might work for some women, for some, but there's a load of 20-something-year-old virgins out there that want to be with women, that want to be intimate with them, that want to have a girlfriend or build a family or something like that, and they're not getting any response from women whatsoever because they haven't looked after their physical appearance. They haven't created the optics of strength and masculinity and competence and that V-taper, the broad shoulders and a narrow waist. They're sitting around in an overweight body, inflamed, skin disorders, knee disorders, diabetic, carrying around far, far too much body weight, wondering why they are not getting what they want out of life. And at the end of the day, there's certain people out there that can get away with being obese, right? There's lots of women out there that have guys that will chase them. It matters still for women, but not to the same degree, right? There's this meme, that I saw the other day where it's like 26-year-old virgin and 26-year-old gal that's overweight, and the guy gets no attention. It's like she's racked up 50 notches off of Tinder in the past 24 months alone because it's the reality of life. For guys, you cannot be out of shape. You just can't let yourself go. You can't carry around unnecessary body weight. You can't let yourself be shaped like a pear. If you want to be respected, like when you enter a room and you're in good shape and you're wearing properly fitted clothes, your shoulders are broad, they're back, your chest is out, you don't have a belly, your flat stomach, you've got a nice V-taper, people notice. Men will notice you and women will notice you. Men will look at you and think, I want to be like that guy. Women will look at you and be like, I want to be with that guy. Do you understand? Let's go to number 7, which is you can be an introvert and you do not need a network. I'm going to say this again. I've said this many, many times on my channel and podcast interviews. Your network is your net worth. If you're a guy that thinks that you can be introverted or create a network, I'm doing that in quotations, online playing video games, where you build a guild or a Discord community or something like that, and those are your friends. They might be your friends online, but they're not your friends in real life. They're not in your vicinity. They aren't going to be by your side if the shit hits the fan. When the zombie apocalypse comes or the aliens invade or the meteor hits the earth and there's a reset, they are not going to be around. Is that thing going to happen anytime soon? Probably not. Let's be honest. There is a very, very remote chance that it could happen. But throughout history, men have always relied on other men. The way of men, as they say, is the way of the gang. Men need to form a strong, cohesive band of brothers, a tribe, where we hold each other accountable, where we test each other. It's why guys will talk shit to their friends, to their face, but protect them behind their back. And by the way, the kind of guys that you want to avoid and not invite in your inner circle are the ones that are always friendly to your face, but then talk shit to your back to other people. So forming a cohesive band of brothers, a tribe, is incredibly important still today in this day and age. You know, it's the reason why in the military they form these cohesive bands of companies and firing squads and all this sort of stuff. And it's like the bigger it gets, the less you care about the others in the group. The smaller the group, the more that you care about them. And those that you care about that are amongst your band of brothers, your tribe, your gang, if you will, are the ones that you will protect, the ones that you will do anything for, that also have your back. It's one of the reasons why I've created my communities in the School of Unplugging, to give guys a place, because they're always asking me, where do I find other unplugged men, Rich? Well, they're there. You can check the links below to learn more about it if you're serious about leveling up and joining a strong community and a gang of band of brothers that are actually doing something. All right, let's go to number 8. We're going to talk about combat, where you don't need to learn how to fight. Oh, you're safe today. You got the military, they'll protect you. You got the police, they'll protect you. You've got whatever. And I'm going to tell you right now, that is an incredibly bad notion, a belief to carry around in life. I'm not saying that you need to go around beating the crap out of people or you need to be violent, but as a man, you need to have the capacity for violence. A guy that is complacent, soft, and weak might look humble, might look like a safe bet, but they're not respected by society. They're not respected by men. Women don't want to be with them. Men respect other guys that have the capacity for violence. And again, I talked about my book earlier. There's a chapter in my book that talks about the importance for violence, to test yourself, to learn these skills. What happens if you're at an ATM late at night, somebody pulls a knife on you? Do you know how to deal with that? What happens if you get into a striking position where you have to fight and throw hands and know how to box? Do you know how to deal with that? What happens if you end up on the ground? Do you know how to deal with that? Again, the chances of this happening in today's safe world that we think that we live in are, of course, not as high as they used to be 1,000 years ago. But 1,000 years ago, 5,000 years ago, 20,000 years ago, and our closest primate relative, chimpanzees, are very, very strong and combative. And humans are that way. We're a warring tribe. We've always been that way. We're always going to be that way. There's always going to be conflict in our lives. And from time to time, it is going to be called upon you to use force. It is always better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war. Do you understand? Let's go to number 9. We'll talk about money not mattering. I don't know how many times I've heard this. Oh, money doesn't matter. There's only so much money out there. You can't get it. All the rich people have accumulated it, and they're all bad, and they're not going to share it. They've acquired it through nefarious means, blah, blah, blah. All this sort of stuff. Simply not true. Money is a measurement of the amount of value that you've created in life. The more value you create in life, the more problems that you solve, the wealthier and more money you will accumulate. That's all it is. That's all that money is. It's just evidence that you've done something of some significance in your life. It also solves a lot of problems. You're sick, you have a loved one that's sick. You can throw money at that and solve that problem. You want to go somewhere and do something, look at something that might be interesting. You can throw money at that and solve that problem. Too many people, I believe, rely on others for financial resources and even success, if I can put it that way, where they think that the government will perhaps bail them out, or they think that an inheritance will take care of things, or a hope in a religion or a god will just make things come their way and solve shit like that. And I'm going to tell you something. This goes back to the victim mindset. This goes back to the ownership thing. If you're not taking ownership for your life, if you're not doing the work, if you don't do something of significance to acquire wealth and money, then you are going to have a harder time at life. Again, money just solves problems. A lot of people out there are able to deal with struggles, complexities, obstacles that come in their way in their life by just throwing some money at it. They also have a network. They also have a lot of other resources in their health, of course. But understand, money is not the root of all evil. The absence of it is evil. Let's go to number 10 and talk about how much the government is supposed to care about us. We often see a lot of people thinking that the state itself cares about them. And I'm going to tell you from firsthand experience, I've done lobbying with the government for several years when it came to bill in Parliament that they were passing and dealing with all levels of politicians. Doesn't matter if it's conservative, liberal, socialist, they're all actually the same. Their interest is in their jobs, in their pensions and so on and so forth. A great example, a recent example of that is a socialist politician here in Canada, Jagmeet Singh, who had an opportunity to vote for non-confidence to trigger an election, but because he gets a certain amount in his pension for a certain period of time after the end of this year, he's decided not to vote for the election because he may not have an opportunity to collect on that pension. That's how self-interested they are. Never mind the interests of Canadians, 42, 43 million Canadians that are here that are not happy with the state of the current government and having an opportunity to trigger an election. For that one guy, he votes to put it off till later because he wants to collect his pension. And that's the reality of the world today. They don't care about you. If you want to get anything done in life, don't hope, because it's a terrible plan. A lot of people just hope for something, or I hope that I'll win the lottery, or I'll hope that some fictitious character will bring it to me, or a religious god or something like that will deliver it to me if I'm just hopeful enough, or if I just pray hard enough. You have to take ownership for your life, guys. Government does not care about you. Most people out there don't care about you, especially if you're a guy today. You know, only women, children, and dogs. I've said this so many times. It's a funny line from stand-up comedy. I think it was Chris Rock. Only women, children, and dogs are loved unconditionally. Men are only loved under the condition that they provide something of value to their family and to the world around them. If you are not in that position, you have to understand that you have to put yourself in a position. Gentlemen, what do you think of those 10 items? I'd love to hear your comments and feedback below in the comments. Pinned in the top one, a bunch of useful stuff. The best one to check out and start with if you really want to level up in life is the School of Unplugging. It's just a monthly membership. It's basically the cost of a coffee a day. Go check it out. Get involved. Get inside. There's over 30 hours of very useful content, long-form content that I've never published on YouTube that I really can't talk about publicly because it dives into area that will fully unplug you. That's why we call it the School of Unplugging. Anyway, go check it out. Have an awesome day. Peace.
I don't ever slow up. No, I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up.